All right. Our next guest and the guest of honor. We all know everything he's done, but there was a point where I versatile individuals in entertainment. He is here with us. Farhan Akhtar, ladies and gentlemen. So quite a few years back, and it's been something which has been festering in your mind for a while. You had an opening scene, which is, I think, the prologue of the book. And so what's been the process from there till here? Oh, wait, I'm going to next. There's one more.
Thanks, Alec. Yeah, so I remember starting off with an idea about maybe 4 or 5 years ago, and our good friend and collaborator of many projects and all sorts of things, Somil, and I sort of thought we should write a screenplay and try and attempt a film on this subject. It was a bit of a statement we wanted to make. It was highly political. It was highly sensitive, I guess, at some level. And we started writing it as a film. We got pretty far, and then 2014 happened, and the government changed, and the country changed, and somehow we just knew that this film is not going to get made anytime soon. So we kind of abandoned that project at that point. But I felt, in the publishing world, we can still get away with a lot because, unfortunately, or fortunately, we don't have too many readers who have too many opinions all the time, like the way they have on film and cinema. So I thought, let me just go sort of under the radar and still get those ideas out in as clear a manner as possible. And so that's why I took Somil's permission to write a book on it, and he let me have it, and I did.
And we're here today, so that was great. Was there any event that has inspired or triggered your curiosity? A particular event that kind of comes to you?
I think every day there are events in Kashmir, and I think we are all part of it. We are all in it. Kashmir is our problem. People don't, it's very easy to sit away from our country's issues and speculate, but I think it's very immediate. It's right. It's something that's very palpable. So there's not one event, but the more you get into it, the more you read about it and what's happening, and try and see the different points of view. I think anyone with any kind of creative streak has something to say about it. I know Farhan did.
I'm just going to come to you, Farhan. You made a film called Lush, which was on a similar theme, also about the protagonist kind of coming of age. And so, what is it about this issue that you feel you want to put on a film? Second film at the age of 30.
Right, yeah. Firstly, my apologies for being a little bit late. I got stuck in traffic getting here. And while I was arriving here, I was going to tell Karan that his next thriller should be about a man who needs to go across Mumbai at rush hour time. He has only 2 hours to defuse a bomb, save his family, do something really, really important. Will he make it? I think is a.
I think everyone knows the answer to that is no. He will not die because of the traffic.
It's a 5-page book. As far as Laksh is concerned, it's something that really, as an idea, was conceptualized in the mind of my father. He had been to Kargil in the year 2001, I think, for Kargil Divas, and where you lay a wreath at the memorial that's made there for the fallen soldiers. And while he was there was an officer that he met who spoke to him at length and told him, that there is so much praise for the Indian Army at this point, and people are saying that really we are like at the pinnacle of courage, the examples for of nationalism, of pride in our country, of sacrifice for our country. But it's really unfortunate that with all this praise that's coming our way, every single year the number of officers enrolling into the army seem to be becoming less and less. So it's just, people are just saying it, but nobody's really following up, on it. And that's when he decided he wanted to write a film that would inspire people to join the army, and that's how luck started. Of course, making it was an eye-opener for me, because there's nobody really from my immediate family who has any kind of army background. So I had to learn a lot about it. And when you learn, I mean, you realize most importantly, the serious amount of pride that those people have, you know, in their country, in their people, in their national identity. And it doesn't matter where you send them. You know, you could send them to Kashmir, you could send them to different parts of India, you could send them for emergencies, for relief work, and they're always there, no questions asked, you know, to really serve us, you know, so that we have more comfortable, easier lives. And that was my biggest learning really from it. So it's very different from the book, you know, I mean, it's a very different experience, but it was truly a lot of learning for me about that region, and of course about the army.
So as a writer, you all are both prolific writers now, and so how does your process go about, you know, when you have to write a book? You know, writing a film is, a lot of people get involved, there's a collaboration that happens, but in a book it's just you alone, kind of just going down with it. So please tell us a little about that.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoy writing. That's my favorite process of filmmaking also, amongst so many things that happen in film. And one of the most fun things about writing and collaborative writing, especially like in a writer's room sort of setup, is it's a lot of physical workout, because you end up beating the other guys up for like that one line or that one idea, and you're always wrestling, and you are walking out and throwing things and throwing tantrums. So that's really fun, and it's for the best. I mean, you just get the best of the ideas sort of filtering through, right? With the book, it was, I just wanted to try something, so I just, you know, locked myself up in a room for a while, on and off, in between filming or writing other things, and I just let it come together like the way I wanted it, and I didn't get too many opinions on it, like unlike film where a lot of people have a say in what you're writing and things, because it's reaching out to a much larger audience. There's a lot more at stake over there. So I just wanted to do this in my little personal way. This is my thing. I just, you know, wanted to get it out. It's incredibly lonely, and well, and you're just tearing yourself up, and you have a lot of self-doubt sort of creeping in at every moment. I think there are lots of writers here, so they know what I'm talking about, and you know, you just have to go with it.
Sorry, but if I may add, you know, I feel like as lonely as the process is physically, you're never really alone, you know, because you're constantly with the characters that you're writing. And like he said, I mean, like you argue with, if you're working with co-writers, you argue and you debate with them. Similarly with characters when you're writing, you know, I mean, the same thing happens even with that, because at times you'll write stuff and then you come back the next day and, you know, you read a page and you're like, yeah, what is this? You know what's going on. So it's interesting, and you actually are hardest on yourself in writing. You know, when you're directing, which I mean Karan also has done very successfully, when you're directing, the thing is that there's so many other people involved that you actually end up doing the best that you possibly can, given everybody's temperament and given everybody's aesthetic and sense of performance. There's only that much you can do. Right. But when you're writing, you're really, really hard on yourself. You know, like the critical factor should really be up there, because you only have yourself, you know,
as a judge,
absolutely,
as the best judge.
So the more time you give and the more effort you put and the more you're willing to grapple with those ideas, you know, and just really, really try to get the best out of what you want. It's tedious, but I mean it's an amazing process when it comes together well.
So what's the one thing about his writing style that you really like?
Well, it's
Storytelling ability.
I think it's unique, you know. I think what does set him apart, whether it's the film that he wrote for us, it's the show that he's done, and now this book. I think what he has, his unique voice, you know, and I think that's the most important thing that you can look for in any kind of creative force. It's very easy to write scripts that are doing the rounds right now, you know, aaj love stories chal rahi hai, come on, let's write a love story. Now thrillers are working, chalo, let's write a thriller. Comedies are the flavor of the season, let's get, you know what I mean? It's very easy to do that. Good and bad is a separate issue, but it's easier to do it because everyone's doing it, you know, so you can fit in more easily. But if you're choosing to do things that are different from what is happening, and you know that there is a certain risk involved. And when that risk does pay off, like I think on a huge level, when they came to us with Inside Edge, and the story that they had created, it was very risque, and we knew that there'll be certain feathers that might get ruffled along the process of doing it. But there was a serious belief in the material that he had written, and he had a vision for how he wanted to make it. And the writing was something that you don't get to read in at least in the Indian web series or TV series context. So that bravado, and that unique style, I think, is definitely his USP for writing.
Mike's kind of gone.
Thanks.
Speak to you, but no, it's okay. So Karan, this actually started off as a film script, and would you ever like to make a film out of this, or would you want to do a series out of it?
Yeah, right now I'm super disillusioned with the whole film scene. Sorry, but it's. I just enjoy this whole series thing a lot. It's like, why tell a story in 2 hours when you have 10 hours to develop your characters, and they don't even have to go from like a start to an end, and all films sort of follow some kind of formula, whether it's like a setup, and then you have a crisis coming in, you have a resolution, and then you have a climax. So none of that applies in a series. Yeah, and then you have to do many things around it, like, like put in songs and things like that. Not always, but the bigger the film, the more safe I think you have to be with it. I think with the series there's a lot less pressure, and above all, I think it's just it's easier in terms of how liberating it is without Palaj Nani sort of looking over your shoulder, and even while writing a script, you're thinking, what will the censor board say about it, and just the natural way I think people speak, for example, you want to capture that. You can't do that in film or screenwriting, I think, enough. So there's a certain template that goes into filmmaking because of many extraneous factors that should not be there in the first place, especially with censorship. And I think that, well, so far there's none of that happening. So yeah, so any day I think a book like this would make a very interesting series, like in the Homeland kind of space.
All right.
Yeah.
Which are the shows that I like abroad? Well, I've been watching many over the years. The one that I've recently watched and I've enjoyed very much is Mindhunter. Yeah, that's the one. I've just kind of finished the first season watching that. So that's the most recent one, I think.
Okay. So, I thought the end of the book was kind of lend itself to a sequel organically. So, what's the plan there?
There is no plan. There's never a plan.
I smell a franchise.
I remember we have this conversation at the end of every film. Yeah, so.
But you end your stuff like that, even
yeah, well,
Inside Edge.
yeah. No, Inside Edge for sure. There's gonna be a second season because
Yeah,
we want that too.
Inside Edge has a season 2, guys.
Officially.
Yes, it's official now. Okay. So, this could
Maybe. Never say never.
All right. So, all right, I have to do this. Farhan knows now. Please don't sit there rapid fire. So, we have a little thing which is kind of written for the book, which I'm going to read out as a trailer for a movie. Since and I'm just going to do it in a. I'm just going to say it, okay? Kashmir Nama's quest is to answer that one question, which the citizens of India, Pakistan, and even the world are now grappling to answer. What is the cost of Kashmir? I think, but I don't know. All right, sorry. I know what that sounded like. I have no clue what that sounded like. I've never heard that voice before myself.
All I can say is that you all didn't need to wait for me. You all could have started early.
Alright.
All right, so with that, let's unveil the book now, yeah? Yes.
Kind of veiled.
Yeah, but unveil the actual book.
Okay.
We're gonna have you read for us, just like a page or two. So let's have you unveil the book. Come. Oh, we can move that. All right. Big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen.
Sir, your right, sir. The left side. Three of you left side. Sir. Alright, sir. Left side. Right side. Left side, sir. The left side. Sir, यहाँ पे left side, sir, यहाँ पे.
And now keep the video. Focus यहाँ पे. Okay, good. Look back. Thanks.
Sir, आप. Start from left side, sir. Both of you. Farhan sir, सामने.
क्या बोलते हैं straight?
Photo.
Sir, you're right.
Both of you left side. Farhan sir. Both of you left side.
Sir, you're right.
Both of you left side.
Okay.
Thank
you.
Okay, Karan, so we're going to ask you, oh, that's the one. That's the copy that we're going to get. Yeah, fine. You want to give a mic back?
Okay, so the story has, the book has three storylines that sort of intersect, and this is one of them. It's about a goat herd who's a Kashmiri, and this is from the middle somewhere, but you don't need a backstory. It's fine. Javed had taken a state bus and traveled most of the way, staring out of the frame of his window at the white vistas streaked by shifting patterns of chinar trees. Like a stain, the polluting, overcrowded bus sputtered on through the thin layer of unsullied snow. The Kashmiris, nestled in layers, rode without any sign of remonstrance. Only once were they stopped and made to walk in a single file across an army checkpost. They were asked to wait unmoving in the open as snowflakes collected on their shoulders. The bus was swept for subversive activity. As victimized Javed felt during such episodes of harassment, this journey with his fellow travelers was always an odd comfort for them. The bus wound its way to the town where Javed had a few buyers for his produce. There was rampant construction going on, the air burdened with dust and cement. He sought out his destination, a dairy shop in the main market run by an old enterprising Punjabi businessman. Gulshan Singh had come on his honeymoon in the 70s and astonished by the sheer beauty of Kashmir, had stayed back and set up shop in Baramulla. Until the late 1980s, his luck was flourishing. He had a network of stores across Kashmir, but the rise of militancy had decimated his business to a single outlet. Javed was turning the corner when he spotted his son's older friend Shaukat smoking at a tea stall. Their eyes met. Shaukat stood up in a reflex action of respect and threw down his cigarette. Javed smiled and indicated for him to wait, that he would see him in 5 minutes. Shaukat nodded and sat down with his two companions, who Javed recognized as teachers from a local madrasa. Gulshan Singh greeted his goat milk supplier with tired eyes and a raspy voice. The variety of his turbans, one hue of the rainbow for each day of the week in his early years, were now restricted to gloomy shades. His shop had remained unchanged for 2 decades. The stainless steel containers for milk and the large brass trays for curd were as shiny as always, but his walls had decayed at a pace invisible to him and his regular customers, much like his smile that was now stockaded by wrinkles. Javed Saab, you've been missing. I haven't seen you since Friday. 40 years, and he hadn't lost his accent. Khurram, my son, he's not well, and Javed brought out his produce. He didn't need to vocalize the rest of the thought. It was self-explanatory in the amount he had to proffer. Gulshan Singh looked up with surprise. Is this it? For this week, yes. I need to keep some in stock for Khurram. But this will hardly be enough for 3, maybe 4 customers. The shopkeeper weighed the milk and transferred the contents to his drums. Then he took out his creaking, rusting money box and rummaged in it for some currency and coins. Javed acted as if he trusted the amount he pocketed, but attempted a quick mental calculation. It was less than 100 rupees. Javed bhai, I hope we can have more next time. Yes. Javed's expression betrayed him. Gulshan Singh regretted his reproach. At the tea stall, an unpainted brick hole in the wall, Shaukat waited for his friend's father on the only bench available. When he spotted him, he reached over and picked up 2 steaming cups from the counter. Javed gratefully accepted it and took a seat. He looked around. The stall owner had his nose buried in the Urdu newspaper as a folk program played on the radio. There were no other patrons. How's Khurram, Chacha? The fever comes and goes. Do you have enough medicines? If you want, I can ask the Hakim to... No, Shaukat, I'll manage. Yes, Chacha. I want to tell you something. Once again, Javed scanned for flies on the wall. Listen, Shaukat, I overheard the conversation last evening. Without missing a beat, Shaukat nodded. It was tragic. The army bastards. I'm sure he wasn't... You know that's not what I'm referring to. Javed was stern now, losing patience. Asking him to make himself useful and whatnot. Now listen to me, Shaukat. Listen carefully. I never ever want you near my son talking about such things, about taking this path. In fact, it would be best if you stayed away from him entirely. He paused. Shaukat had that look of defiance that he had seen on the faces of so many Kashmiri teens in the last 30 years. I want him to have a good education. I want him to make something of his life, get out of that village, go into the world, become a man with a legacy. You must understand this is my dream, like every other parent. I cannot have him join your cause, a cause he doesn't even understand yet. I don't want him to throw stones at an enemy that will crush him with their might. We don't want him to throw stones. We are past that point in our fight now. There's glory and money in what we're asking of him. And as for not understanding, with all due respect, Chacha, that is on you. Javed ignored the accusation. He did not need this upstart to explain to him how to raise his son. If Shaukat was looking for intent in the man, he was going to get it. Now, said Javed, treading with care. Keep Khurram out of this. Tell me everything. I want to volunteer for whatever it is that you're planning with your friends. So that was one chapter. Is that enough? Actually, this is one of the slower chapters. Like the rest of it is a lot of action, and it's more fun to read than to have me say.